Okay, Cabin Conversations.
Oops.
No, we're going.
This is Cabin Conversations.
This is Cabin Conversations, a regular podcast at Woodlands Church. I'm Dave Bonison here with co-host Whitney Swenson.
Hi, Dave.
Yeah. What's your last name again? It's Swenson.
Swenson.
Yeah, I got it. No, I'm all over it. This is fantastic.
Words are hard sometimes.
This is our fourth season. We've been doing this for a long time, and we're really good at it. Here with our friend Jed. Hey, brother Jed.
Hey, Dave. Hey, Whit.
Hey, Jed.
We love
Jed
having you on.
Hey,
so
thanks.
it is always a just absolute joy.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple of factoids.
You got tidbits to start us.
As we get started. I've got two completely unrelated things that have come across my brain desk over the last week, and I found it interesting.
Okay.
So the first is, March Madness just finished,
Yeah.
which is a 64-team tournament.
Yeah.
So you have to
heartbreak and
it's just
celebrations.
tragic across the board.
What?
My son
Who won?
was Florida.
Okay.
My son was a
I was
couple
supposed to
of
look that up last night.
couple of games away from coming in first in this big bracket pool that we
Whoa.
have. So he only had one wrong in the Elite Eight, perfect Final Four, and if it had been Auburn over Houston, he would have cashed out big in this thing I do with college friends still, which is cool. But so that's 6 rounds, right? 64 teams down to 1. Yeah, the one team that wins has to win 6 in a row.
Okay.
So here's the question. If we were to host a one-on-one tournament with the entire world, how many games in a row would the winner need to win, right? One person's going to win every game.
Dave.
Take a guess, don't do the math, just off the top of your head. One-on-one tournament with the entire world, entire global population. Like I'm going to get
7
matched up.
billion.
Yeah. So how many games? What do you think, Whitney?
Hang on. So 64
No,
teams.
don't do the math. Don't do the math. Just go.
I have no idea, Dave.
So
I
take
don't
a
even,
guess.
What's our population?
7 billion, 8 billion.
8 billion? No?
So yeah,
Okay.
what's the guess off the top of your head?
1 billion.
Trillion.
33.
What?
It's 33. It's because it's 2 to the power of 33. Because every time there's a round, half the
You're
population
talking
loses.
about
Right?
how many rounds there are?
How many rounds? How many games
There's
would the
only
winning
33
person?
Oh,
rounds.
how many games would the winning person have to win?
Which is the number
Got
of
it.
rounds,
I was
right?
Yeah,
confused.
yeah.
Sorry
okay.
about that.
So I set it up a little wrong.
33
rounds. There's only 33 rounds.
64 down to 6.
Yeah, I was
Or
thinking
down
games.
to 1 is 6.
6 rounds. Yep. And then it's a doubling rate, right?
Uh-huh.
So you start with 8 billion and then you get down to 4 billion and then 2 billion. That's only 2 rounds. You're already 75% of the population's out
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
2
that
rounds.
makes sense.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty wild.
That is wild.
33 rounds. I think I could make it a couple rounds, depending on my first round, poll.
One-on-one basketball is what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Or like thumb wrestling?
Wait.
Anything.
Did you just say you'd make it a couple rounds?
I think I'd make it a couple rounds, depending on the draw, right, at the first. So there's lots of people that would beat me in
There's
the
a lot
first
of-
round.
yeah.
There's lots of people that would lose to me in the first round.
Yeah.
But if I was paired
I
up
like
with
your
someone in
confidence,
a
though.
nursing home, I'd probably win.
That's awesome.
Or someone who's never seen a basketball or a hoop. That
The odds are my favor to win the first round, at
Let's
least.
go. Yeah.
And anyone who's seen me play basketball knows the odds are not in my favor to win the second round. If someone's won one round, they're probably going to beat me in the second round.
That's
So
awesome. I haven't seen you play basketball. Do
It's-
you enjoy it?
Might be
It's
a reason
chaotic.
for
I
that.
enjoy it a ton.
Chaotic.
But I remember Steve Berg and I were on a missions trip in high school to Matamoros, Mexico. And Steve spoke enough Spanish we were playing pickup ball with some Mexican kids at a local park. And they were just cracking up and just talking trash. And Steve's like, Dave, they are just making fun of you. That is all they are doing this game.
That's
And
awesome.
I'm on breakaways and dribbling the ball off my knee and all of that stuff. Like it was just a mess. So
I love it. I would have loved to see that.
I have fun, but I'm not good.
Hey, little plug, right? Is it Thursday morning or Friday nights? There's some basketball going on.
Oh,
Yeah, the Thursday mornings and
Both.
Friday nights.
Friday nights
Yeah.
and
It's both.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Then
Yep.
Sunday night is volleyball.
Yep. So
Yeah.
there's definitely opportunities
Some
to
stuff going on.
And that's a cool thing because they definitely seek to attract some community people through that and do some devotional elements at different times and different things like that. So good opportunities to witness if you are a baller,
That's right.
as they say.
That's
This
right.
is your opportunity to come sweep in and be a baller and entertain everybody.
I don't think so.
Come on, Dave.
Come on. And my other random tidbit is
33 rounds, is it? Huh?
that's it. That's all.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
This is like you got to shift your brain gears here because this is totally different. In the United States, I don't know exactly how I want to share this. In the United States, there are only 10 states in which it is legal to, here's the question, I guess. Is it legal to own a kangaroo?
In 10 states it is.
In 10 states it is. Yes, that's very, very intuitive. In 7 of those 10 states, you need to have a permit in order to have a kangaroo.
Yeah. Okay.
There were only 3 states in Wisconsin, in America, that is legal to own a kangaroo without a permit.
You can just have them.
And Wisconsin is one of those states.
You can own a kangaroo.
You can just straight up own a kangaroo if you can
no
find
permit
one.
needed.
No.
You can find them.
This is according to this map I saw.
Wow.
So, West Virginia and South Carolina being the other 2. No permit needed to own a kangaroo.
They're hedging their bets on that one. That there's like probably permits needed to import. So there's you gotta do
the tariffs are lower. So I was going to say, in all the news out there with tariffs and all that stuff, the real news is that you can own a kangaroo.
That's good news.
See if you can't get one.
Good news.
So you're looking for a bet.
Somebody's really excited right now. I guarantee it.
Someone's
They're like, I could win a round in the world bracket basketball, we'll call it. And I could
own a kangaroo. All in Wisconsin. This is the land of opportunity, truly. So what a blessing to be here. So anyway, that's my thoughts. Those are what goes through my brain at different times. So,
Wow. And that you share them with, a wider audience is sometimes just flabbergasting.
come join me in my ponderings and musings.
I love it.
To the
I
world.
love it.
It's good to have creative outlets or inputs or however that works. Anyway, opener question for you, Jed, so that everybody gets to know you a little bit more. This comes straight from our resources. On the resource page, would you rather tend a garden or visit a farmer's market?
Yeah, I circled on that page.
Did you? Which one did you circle and why?
Like you circled one of them or you just kept going around? I did. Genuinely.
Great question.
No, I circled tend a farmer's market.
Okay.
On my nice life group
Look at you did it.
handout.
It's right there.
Okay. You got it.
So, yeah, I do not tend gardens.
Not your thing.
No to the garden.
No, my mom's big into that. She loves green thumb, that kind of thing. And Kendra and I over the years have had like a little garden.
Sure.
And
it doesn't bring joy. Doesn't spark joy in you.
No. I like eating. And our dogs, our big dog likes going to the garden at Nana's house.
Oh.
And she is a gardener and eating
dog
beans.
Is a gardener. Yes,
so he goes into
beans.
the garden and like just snags some beans.
Really?
And helps himself. Yeah.
Okay.
Our dog will eat the asparagus. Like we have an asparagus patch and we'll like snap the asparagus off and eat it.
That's frustrating.
It's so frustrating.
That's an investment. Asparagus like takes some work to get.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
What farm fresh veggies do you like, Jed? If you go to a farmer's market, what are you zoning for?
I'm probably going sugar snap peas.
Okay.
Yeah. Some sweet.
Yep.
Carrots. I like the beans. I like.
We talking just green beans, like
tomatoes?
String beans?
Yeah, those string beans.
Okay.
Munching on them.
And cherry tomatoes.
Little cherry tomatoes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a moderate tomato fan, like definitely on my burger situation. I'm not going to eat the cherry tomatoes.
What?
My daughters are so crazed for them.
Yeah.
So we had tacos last night for dinner, and I was cleaning up afterwards, and we had some chopped up tomatoes left. And I'm like, B, come back here. She comes toddling. Not toddling. She's 5. She comes running in. She's like, what's up, Dad? And I'm like, eat the rest of the tomatoes. She's like, oh, boy. She's just like shoveling them into her face. I'm like, God, this is sweet. So
that's awesome.
How would you answer the question? Tend a garden or farmer's
tend a
market?
garden for sure.
Has that always been true?
I think that I've always been enamored with a garden.
Okay.
And I love the pace of gardening. I love the creative aspect and element of it. It's like it's such an outlet, and it's such a melding of, I like building planters and laying out the way that my garden's going to be organized and thinking through what's going where. And then I love the fact that I can have the best plans right now I can plant it. It can totally fail. And then I'm like, all right, I guess got to wait. Like, I'm going to know in 8 months if my garden's going to fail. And then I'm going to have another 8 months or,
a couple months to think about it.
I'm going to know in 4 months whether my garden's going to fail. And then, so it's just so slow. There's no microwaving it. And I think that there's a lot of reason why growth and spiritual growth is used in garden imagery, because it is the pace and the slowness and the dependence. Like I depend on so much for it to be successsução. So
you can literally tend the soil and plant the seeds.
Yep.
And then sometimes water.
You can water it, yeah. You can irrigate it and stuff, but you get pests. Like, you don't know what you're going to get this year. Like every year is going to be so different. And so, whereas this last year I was like, I overcrowded my tomatoes like crazy. I've got to underplant them this year, but now my seeds aren't starting. And so I'm like, well, what good is this if my seeds aren't going to start? I'm not going to have anything. Do you know what we're adding this year?
What are you adding?
We're adding bees.
Oh.
So we're getting bees. We just got 2 hives, and we're getting 2 pounds of bees delivered in about a month. So
it's like the outfit and everything?
8,000 bees.
We had this conversation in the past.
I'm not going to be worried. And Brad Johnson, Elder Brad, he's tended bees for the past couple of years, and he's never worn a single piece of protective gear, and he's never been stung.
Well, that sounds like Ranger Brad.
So it's Ranger Brad,
doesn't
right?
it?
But
also a little encouraging. Like, go try it.
I saw a video of a guy
also
cleaning
maybe
up
have
a
an
honeybee.
EpiPen available if needed.
We're not allergic.
Okay.
But,
but what if?
I saw a video of a guy cleaning up a hive, and it was on a big branch, and he just literally took the branch, he cut it off, and just tossed it down, and all the bees fell on the ground. And so.
But then he also searched through it to find the queen.
Did I show
put
you
the queen
Did you see that?
No,
video?
I saw it.
Oh
somewhere.
Yeah, he's like scooping them up with his hands and stuff like that. So honeybees are, if you get the right brand, flavor of honeybee, breed, species.
Is that right?
It's probably species. It's not brand.
I don't know. Now I'm thinking about biology.
They can be really docile and just friendly and stuff. So my wife will have the full suit, and that's with you're using a smoker, so you're not going in and futzing with their hive while they're grumpy. You're putting them to sleep. But.
One of the greenhouses, they're farmers and they own a CSA in Antigo, and it's one of the places that I will go and get spring plants from. They have, so in contrast to Brad's story, Jerry, his name is Jerry in Maydeen, has been chased across their property on a 4-wheeler by killer bees that got I don't know if they took over the hive or whatever, but they're not even they're like African killing bees or something, but he's been chased by them.
In a 4-wheeler.
On a 4-wheeler. So there's that.
Yeah, but
contrast.
that's Antigo. That's Antigo. Okay. That sort of stuff happens in Antigo. Not down here in St.
I don't think it's a common story, but it is nonetheless a story I heard from the mouth of the human that it happened to as I was checking out.
That's wild.
It's wild. So there's because of that story, my husband was standing next to me when we heard it. We will never be able to have bees.
Well, you'll see what my story, maybe my story. In theory, our 8,000 bees that we're getting, about a month is going to turn into a hive of 20 to 50,000 bees, which should produce this year about 100 pounds of honey.
Whoa.
Which be pretty swell. So,
how do your neighbors feel about this?
Oh, they do not know. So they do not listen to this podcast. No, they do. Some of my neighbors put out the no mow May sign, so I think that they will be in favor of us having the pollinators.
Okay. The other ones that mow during May will be mowing his bees.
I really don't think that they're going to be disruptive. I mean, the Johnsons live right in Parker Edge, so you want the address to the Johnsons? Should I put that out on this public podcast? No, I'm just kidding.
Is there permitting that you need to figure out? You can get bees if you want. So then there's here's your sign that it's probably going to be.
Yeah, I think that they're going to be really low disruption. So, and we live up against 15 acres of just woods that's owned by someone else. It's not us, but it's just going to be right on that. So, on either side of our half-acre lot, we have neighbors, but the bees are just going to pollinate their garden, and everybody's going to be happy and
hopefully
glad that we're in the neighborhood.
I love it.
Very confident.
There you go. I like the confidence. You got a lot of confidence today. Going to win this world basketball tournament.
Win one round. 1 out of 33. That'd be hilarious. Jed, Sunday sermon. Then we pivoted really hard.
Hard shift.
We're pivoting into the garden, though.
Yeah.
We're talking to the garden.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
why
Garden of Gethsemane. We talked about the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
And then the garden in the new heavens and new earth, too. But what was the takeaway for you as you were processing?
Yeah. I mean, I loved it, and my whole family loved it, just processing it together. So, man, really, really applicable as well, the way you presented it and tied it all together. But for me personally, was really looking at, I guess, two aspects. Your points, with the garden, you had kind of failure, betrayal, God's faithfulness, Jesus' faithfulness. And, Adam and Eve's failure, to Peter, John, and James can't stay awake, to 10 disciples fleeing, to Peter's denial, just all kinds of things going on. And then the realization that I'm the monster at the end of the story.
The end of the story.
Yeah.
At the end of the story. And even I've heard it said, I'm Judas, who's betrayed Jesus. For whatever that is, for money, for my own kingdom, like you mentioned, for Peter, whatever that is, going into this relationship with Jesus. And so what brought me back was one of the statements you opened with. It is in the garden that God meets his people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yet how he responds is in his faithfulness. He is so patient and gentle and kind, and he carries so much weight. I mean, the weight of the world, right? The sins of the world, the wrath of God. Went and died on the cross, rose again, defeated death for me, the betrayer, the monster at the end of the story.
Yeah.
Like, can I do that? He says I can. With his love, he says, follow in my example.
Yeah. Take up your cross.
Yeah. And do that for others. And just sitting in the weight of that, I guess, was what was so powerful. Not only did it help me go back to reality, like, whoa, right? But then he wants to meet me in the garden. And I think of when in the garden, it was Mary, right? When she thinks he's a gardener.
Yeah, Mary.
Yeah, and then she hears his voice, and she's like, "Jeez," like just all her grief and sorrow turns to joy. And I think that's a message like this. That's what it does for me. Is it realizes, man, I failed, I betrayed him. Yeah, he's faithful. He defeated death, and so I can show up and I can have joy in this relationship. I can know how loved I am, and then I can go out and love others in that way. So that was big for me.
Yeah.
I asked CJ what his takeaway is. He's like, I just love Dave. So what about it? Just Dave. All right. He likes you.
Thanks,
he
CJ.
likes you.
Shout out,
So
man.
there's a shout out to you.
That's great.
But I know you're getting through to the generations.
That's really encouraging.
with that.
Yeah. That's really encouraging. So how do you ask, just practically, because different people do it in different ways, but what does it look like for you engaging your family in talking about the message? Because you're all together, the four of you guys sit kind of, I know where you sit. And is that on the car ride? Is it at lunch? Is it, different people's schedules are different, but what question do you ask? How do you press in?
Yeah, it's a little different each week. I have the cheat sheet. I'm a life group leader, so there's good questions on here to do. A lot of times it's we're just grabbing lunch. We're either going out to lunch, or grabbing takein, or we're eating leftovers. One of those three when we get home. And in this case, we had Qdoba.
Nice.
And just sat around, and I said, hey, just give me one thing. Just what's one thing that jumped out at you, you know? And then we start processing it. Usually Kendra goes first, just kind of set the table, and, you know, and then we kind of just go around the horn and share. And that's why Preston, you know, CJ, give me what, you know, I was like trying to get something, but I do know that he listens deeply, and it comes out throughout the week, you know, in conversation, to know that, you know, and that's how kids process stuff too, you know. In the moment, he might not be able to.
He loves Dave.
We just know he loves Dave. Like the week before was John and Colton did like some pretty exciting worship.
Yeah, they had that whole worship thing at the end too, especially. Yeah,
and CJ's comment was, they're trying to be like districts. And I'm like, tell me more. He's like, this was just like districts. And I was like, that's a good thing, right? Yeah. That's, you know, that's great. Yeah. So that was his takeaway the week prior.
Yeah.
So he's taking it in. You know, each kid's a little different. And then Kylie pulls out her notebook.
Sure.
You know, with and hers is color coordinated and you know,
notes and stuff.
Notes and all that stuff. So.
A lot of times kids are collecting information and then they apply it when that, you know, they're just gathering it in their heads. Like I'm a systematic processor where I'm just going to kind of, okay, how does this apply in this moment? But it's probably more collection and application as they go than to.
Yeah.
Do you process with your family?
Not as intentionally as I'd like to.
Okay.
To be honest, and part of it is because half of my family go to Sunday Kids, and so I'll process like that.
Yeah.
What'd you guys talk about? What'd you learn? It's funny because Sunday Kids, I truth be told, I get lost a little between like what they're learning in Sunday Kids, what they're learning in Kids Crossing.
Yeah.
One's topical, one's, you know, through the story of the Bible. I know Sunday Kids this last week, they did the story of Ehud and Eglon, which is just such a fun story. It's like CIA, you know, he's got the sword in his right hip because he's left-handed. And just this morning, Elliot came up to me with her Bible and she was like, I've been, you know, memorizing Joshua 25:1, which is super sweet, or not 25:1, but one of the verses there. We went through that and then we flip over to the story of Ehud and you know what he escaped through? She's like, what? Like the toilet. She's like, what? Gross. You know, like all of that stuff. So, I think that's what makes it a little harder to process Sunday sermon.
Yeah.
Probably it's because 2 of my family are in there and 3 of my family are in Sunday Kids. So we're all over the place. Where's Sophie? Does Sophie go to church with you guys?
Yeah, she'll sit with us.
Okay.
And she's also in the nursery serving every now and then. So, but apparently the nursery that she's in, they also have piped in
the service on the screens,
so she can hear it. But ours is more like it's not a ton of processing initially. Any questions come up with like, you know, like statements like I like Dave or like it was good, and then it's later on in the week, or there's a melding of like I try not to be so heavy-handed and be like, what'd you read in scripture today every day?
Yeah.
But just like, are you still in it? Cool. What's resonating? And then there's usually some melding of I think the collection of information and like laying groundwork is a very good description of what's happening with her at 13, and less systematic figuring things out right now. It's just kind of a collecting.
Can we give a shout out, Jed, when you said I'm a life group leader, because you are a life group leader, but you're also a parent, which is a life group. That's a life group leader right there as well. And I was just like, oh my goodness, every parent should have, if they have kids older than elementary age or in elementary age who are in the service, they should be grabbing the leader resource email. So where does one get the leader, not the email?
The resources are on our webpage, woodlandschurch.org/resources. And at the very top, you can click, it says you can print these and you would get the PDF. Sorry. That would do what Jed's got going on. And it's like when you look at the PDF, It looks a little goofy because it's intended to be printed back to back on the short side. Looks like you did the long side.
I can't figure out the printer, to be honest with you. I need help.
Hey, they're
I
doing
can
a
help
printer
you.
My
training,
life
right?
group gets it backward every
I
week.
can help you with the preset that you just have to hit the preset every time you're printing this one specifically.
Okay.
So it's intended to be booklet, like in a
And then
form
fold
of
in
a
half.
booklet.
Yep. So print front and back and then fold in half.
Yeah, it's got a sweet dinner time discussion. Describe a time or situation when you needed prayerful support of a close friend. In what areas do you currently need friend or need the prayer support of fellow believers? And so, it's beautiful. It sets stuff up for you practicing prayer. Our life group is praying for doing this. Instead of exchanging prayer requests, get together with one another this week and pray.
Yeah.
So we assign, each person just one-on-one. We're scheduling meetings throughout the week to pray with each other.
That's super cool.
So
Over the phone or in person? just
some are
curious.
doing it in person, some are doing it over the phone.
Either works.
Yep,
That's good.
Yep. So it's got some really cool stuff on here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, it's designed, we talked about this a little bit in our group life staff team meeting earlier today. The curriculum is designed as a support for you, not as the hard, rigid guide that if you have to get through all 5 questions and then your group is complete. It's there as a resource, as a
Like a prompt.
yeah, but also it's not rigid.
Yeah.
So you choose what is what's appropriate for if you're a parent grabbing this and it's not
It's got a bunch of questions on the inside.
Yeah.
With answers too.
Some
Answers,
with some help if you need it. If there's, it's not for every. We don't give leader resource notes for every question, but it just doesn't need to be a strict. I have to get through all 5 questions to use this thing. You can just pick it up for the dinner time discussion for your family as a place to process.
You can pick it up for yourself.
Yep.
There's a way to process through the message too.
Yep.
So that's an
But then
interesting.
always suggest to talk about it with somebody.
Yeah. Yep.
Self-reflection is great. In community is even greater.
The
And one feeds the other really well.
easiest place that starts is in your home, and then beyond that. So, but lead the home, right, Jed?
There it
Lead the
is.
home.
Yeah, we're all about that.
Yep. So start there. Processing is not always that's not the most intuitive thing always when it comes to messages. So, Whit, how do you process coming out of a message like Sundays, where I think I said some pretty pointed things, but I don't know that I really gave any clear application.
Right.
Go and do this, other than go and worship.
Yep.
So what does that look like for you processing?
Oh, if I'm being super honest, it can be neat message and move on to the next thing the week's coming. So unless I'm super intentional to process and to stop and do, just looking at my notes. So we walked up here and I'm like, oh shoot, my notes are in my purse, stuffed in my Bible that I have. I've got this little tiny pocket Bible that it's just in my purse. Unless I go back and grab those notes and process something, it'll just stay there until the next Sunday when I take another quarter sheet. So there's a level of intentionality that
Step one is intentionality.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it's okay that it doesn't happen every week, that there's not it's not I think we can also be like our children in gathering information and letting that be a formative time of just sitting and listening to the Spirit of God and letting that seed, be sown in our souls and have it be something that the Spirit can prompt later on.
I call it washing over you, like taking a shower in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's value just in being in it.
I think so.
Even it doesn't have to do. It doesn't have to do something you see every single week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think there are times, though, that are called for application, that we take something and we say, how does this apply to my life? Even for this Sunday, to think about the betrayal and the failure of the disciples in the garden. There was a distinctness in that for me, as they've been people that have been following Jesus for a really long time. And I think you made a gospel invitation this Sunday of gosh, if you haven't said yes to Jesus yet. But I was sitting there saying, I've said yes to Jesus. And sometimes it gets harder and harder to accept the grace and forgiveness that he offers me the longer I've been walking with him, and the more failure and betrayal that gets stacked up in between. So to take a moment and to say, what failures do I need to then bring back to the foot of the cross?
Yeah.
What betrayal do I need to bring back to the foot of the cross and clear this path?
Yeah.
Because it can get cluttered,
right?
And then there's these barriers between me walking with Jesus that he doesn't. I'm putting him there. I just need to say, oh yeah, I'm washed in your forgiveness. What you have done through the garden into the cross is not just for my first coming to you, but my everyday coming to you. So there was a distinction there for me of this, like, yes, it's what junk do I have right now in between me and Jesus? Because I am the monster at the end of the book, but I'm also the forgiven child that's beloved, and he came for a purpose, and it's to redeem and restore me and you, and so that there, intentional processing. Maybe sit with some friends and talk about it, and you'll get some intentional processing.
Yeah. But that is a level of intentionality that's just built in. That's one of the values of a life group, is it's built-in intentionality.
Yeah.
Where if you don't have that, and certainly for all of us who are parents know that, the best laid assumptions for a Sunday morning evaporate pretty easy by, Monday afternoon in terms of intentionality and pace of life and things like that. So,
yeah, just to add, before we started this life group, we were in a life group on Tuesday. We would on Sunday night do basically a family. I'd make my family sit down for an hour, like a life group.
That's a chunk of time.
A chunk of time. We'd pray, do update, just like a life group has sermon-based.
How'd it go?
Well,
I know how it would go in my family.
I liked it.
Yeah. Maybe we need to ask Kylie, CJ, and Kendra.
It was really valuable, I think.
Yeah.
We'd go off on lots of tangents, have to reel back in, all that fun stuff. But all those tangents were family bonding and forming and
relational,
all that stuff. So we miss it. I miss it, I should say.
Because your life group is on Sunday now.
Yeah, now we started a life group on Sunday night, and I'm missing that time. So that's where the lunch comes in. But kind of for me, it's an immediate process. I got to sit in it, and so I get to process it with my family. Then I get to prepare for life group.
Sure.
And sit in it and ask those questions, and then I get to process that with a community. Now, spacing that out throughout the week might be beneficial too. Mine's all stacked, but I think that's so important. I agree with you. It could be just sit and take it in one week, and you just move on. You just get washed, or you get the seed planted. But there is something beautiful about sitting down and identifying what is one thing that God's speaking to me about in this moment. What is that? What is just sitting in it, And love that you brought out, we are the monster, but we're forgiven in grace. And that theme came out in our life group of just this, I want to just sit in God's grace this week.
Yeah.
As we prepare for Easter, which is coming up, so we're kind of entering into that preparation mode. So,
just a thing that happened in this, I think it was loosely intentional in this sermon series process. This coming Sunday is the cross. And I just mentioned in our production meeting, I was like, it's weird doing the cross on Palm Sunday.
Yeah, Sophie was wondering about, what are we doing on Good Friday then, Mom? Great question.
That's what happens on Good Friday then. And so what Good Friday ends up being, it's a Tenebrae service again.
Okay.
Where there's 7 or 8 different readings. And after each one of those readings is just this period of reflection. And we were just talking, do we prompt how people reflect in this? Or do we just leave it open? And my sense was, because for these last 3 weeks, we will have taught on pretty much all the content of the readings.
Sure.
It's almost this built-in reflective moment where it starts at the table and moves to the garden and then goes to the cross in these readings. And there's just space to reflect on that in Good Friday leading into Easter. And so it's just really beautiful rhythm.
I love that.
Yeah. And it I want to say intentional because it was intentional in the heart of God. And it was laid out, but I think it really fell into a rhythm that's pretty profound going into that. So I think that'll be really sweet if you can make a Good Friday service. I do encourage you to go to the 7 if you can. It's later, but last year there was like 750 people at the 5:30 and like 270 at the 7. So,
way different.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, so the 7 is it's a little looser, a little lighter.
Okay.
So,
Or it has been.
yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the numbers I think off the top of my head. Yeah, it's going to be sweet. One of the things I love about preaching is that you just really get to study a passage and you get to learn passages. I think Peter's betrayal, when I was going through the 3 betrayals there, like I had in my study, obviously Judas's betrayal, I just had one betrayal. And then when they all fled, I was like, no, that's a betrayal right there too. And then I was reading, there's about 4 or 5 commentaries that I'll usually read. And Preaching the Word, which is the least technical, it's a pastoral preaching prep commentary, highlighted the betrayal of Peter in betraying Jesus' teaching in that moment. And I thought that was so profound. And I don't think I'd ever thought about that before, how that movement by Peter was just such a, dismissal of everything Jesus had been teaching him, and how Jesus must have felt in that moment. Like Jesus knew everything; he's got it. But at that moment when everybody's turning their back and running and leaving, to also see all that Jesus had been teaching for 3 years, just
cut off like the ear,
like doing nothing, and just be like, "Whoa, what?" Jesus would have been. He had to have been tempted with hopelessness in that moment. Like he knows all. He does. But that would have been so just heartbreaking, I think.
But then to also know, like to have the lesson sitting in front of Peter of the healing of like, this isn't the way. And for Jesus to restore what was such a visual, like I feel like Peter is one of those guys that needed some hands-on experiences,
Yeah. He needed some direct guiding.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
That's probably why he had the vision of the net being let down too.
Yeah.
He's a very visual dude. Everything needs to be spelled out to him.
Yeah.
The healing, do you remember which of the 4 Gospels it is actually healed in? I want to say it's John. Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew and struck the height, cut it. The servant's name was Malchus. No, it's not. So it would have been Luke or Matthew.
Mark 14, Matthew 26.
Judge just rattling off the betrayal
John
passages.
18, that's right, out of my life group leader notes right there.
Just off of the head, off the top of the head.
Get up and pray. I was struck
it's gonna be Luke.
In Luke when
Luke's the detail guy.
Luke gives the detail of the disciples falling asleep because of sorrow.
Yeah, there is like Luke is a much more gracious text to it.
Exhausted from sorrow.
There's so many interesting, like even Jesus's encouragement, pray that you do not enter into temptation.
Yeah.
In that, it's like, wait, what's going on here? I thought they were just falling asleep, but there's a level of like temptation to what? Temptation to abandon or walk away, or there's some really interesting things going in.
Yeah, there's battle going on in the garden, right?
I didn't mention it, but honestly, the Passion of the Christ, like Gethsemane scene, which the creepy like Satan figure and a snake and Jesus crushing the snake with his heel. Like, if you get a chance, go back and watch that scene. It's
from what?
The Passion of the Christ, Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ. So
yeah, it is powerful.
It's a powerful scene that really like deals with a lot of what the text is dealing with. I watched it again in reflection on this, and I was like, oh, I did pretty good. So,
yeah, what would be your in light of that? Kind of what's your application to you? You know, as the preacher, you're wrestling this through on your own before you give it to us.
Yeah. It is always, my application is usually the same, which is just stand in awe at our God. Like I just, I don't want to leave feeling unduly weighted by my sin. Like, I do want to feel the weight of my sin, but I also want to feel the victory of Jesus. Like, I've been wrestling with a component of that for my ordination paper, is how much will we be aware of our previous sin in glory, and just and I said it kind of at the end, if we have any awareness of our sin when we are with Jesus, it will only be to see how great his faithfulness was. That our awareness right now of our sin should just be to magnify the greatness of God.
Yeah.
And so I think I just want to be led further and deeper into worship and standing in awe at God. Because I think that when you stand in awe at the foot of the cross, or just the foot of the throne, or however it is, like, your fears melt away, your anxieties melt away. Like, what do we have to worry about? What is tomorrow? Like, he's got it.
And you took us there. You took, a revelation.
Yeah.
And gave us that word at the end of, I wrote it down, of just, you were like, imagine the promise of one day.
Yeah. And I started in Hebrews 10 too, which I think is what it leads. Let us encourage each other, and all the more as we see that day approaching. So let us encourage one another. So I think that's my takeaway, is just like victory in Jesus. So, and now that song's stuck in your head.
So let me drill down a little bit. Can I?
Yeah.
What does that mean for you today, tomorrow, next week? Sitting in the awe, focusing in on victory, the revelation passages of the throne of the garden you read in was it 21?
I was in 21, yeah. Or 22.
22. Just no pain, all this. What does that do for you? Like, I know I'm pushing. Practically, like, what
shapes my prayer life, for one. That's where it starts. Like, even this morning, sitting in my chair praying, just that I would increasingly be confident of the victory that Jesus is going to accomplish. And then as that confidence rises, it's just a call to faithfulness in the moment. Like, what does it look like for me to be faithful in my leadership of this area, in my preparation in this area, in my engagement in this area? There's interpersonal conflict, or I know I got to walk into a conversation that's going to be messy and that might leave someone frustrated with me. But what? Like, Jesus is on the throne, and he is going to use whatever happens. I never want to sin, but he's going to use whatever happens for his glory and his good, and for my good ultimately. So there's just a fearlessness, I think, about it.
It sounds like a humble confidence.
Yeah. I don't want it to be a cockiness or anything like that, but
like in awe, so it humbles you.
Yeah.
And then you
washed
get to
in love so you can be loved to others.
Yeah, that's good. Washed and loved so you can be loved to others.
Which speaks to the, John says, perfect love casts out fear. When you're washed in love, then you don't have to walk in fear. Which, should lead to a humbleness, not a cockiness. But
there's two verses that pop into my mind immediately. One is, Philippians 2, 1-11, which starts with, therefore, brothers, if there's any encouragement, if there's all of those exhortations, then live in this way, because our hope is so fixed. And then the second is Colossians 3, 1-17, which is just probably one of my favorite passages.
All of Colossians 3, right?
1-17,
okay.
yeah. So, and 5-17 talk about taking off and putting on, getting away with sinfulness, putting on the righteousness and goodness. But it starts with, if then you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are the earth. For you have died. Your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you will also appear with him in glory. That's that whole idea. Like, just seek those things. And then he says, put to death, therefore. Because of that, you can put to death. And then verse 12, put on then as God's chosen ones. Like, because your focus is so on Jesus, who's on the throne, you're going to appear with him in glory. Like, those are facts. full stop, end of sentence. Nothing can change that. So then because of that, live faithfully. So kill sin.
Yeah.
Be gracious.
I've heard it said the way you think shapes the way you live.
Yeah.
Right? So when you have right thinking, which is what this is doing, washing you, then you will live that out. What does this look like for you, Whitney, practically, as you sit in this?
I mean, yeah, I think, my alarm that's to remind me to turn the water heater off or back on. I think, as I'm listening to you, Dave, think about just sitting in awe of God. I think it also, it shapes my prayer life. Yes. I think what it reminds me to do is sit in Scripture and watch and look for God's faithfulness and love. I'm walking through Isaiah for the season of Lent. And if the first half of Isaiah, if you're not looking for compassion and the kindness and the gentleness of God and his ultimate victory, you can get a little bit wiggly in there of like, shoot, what are you doing? What's happening here? So I think sometimes I can come to Scripture with what I need to do and what I need to be and how to avoid God's wrath. And in this kind of message on Sunday, it could go there. If you missed the last point of Jesus' faithfulness, you could think about your failure and how I've betrayed God, and then focus on the wrath of God. And instead we get to focus on the faithfulness and love, gentle kindness of Jesus. So I think practically it's how I'm engaging with Scripture, and then how I'm engaging with Scripture forms what's going through my mind throughout a day, and then it informs the way I'm interacting with other people, which is kind of on repeat all the time. You know what I mean? But we're also sieves, and by the time we get to Wednesday, I might forget. By the time I get to Monday morning, I might forget. By the time I get to Sunday night, I might forget. And so just the continual reminder and washing in God's Word is pouring in where I've got holes that are leaking out the truth. Because we walk in a fallen world where it can lead us to think God isn't on the throne, or like how foolish it is to hope in a restored humanity and a restored world because of whatever brokenness that we interact with on a regular basis. So
It's good. I love that.
It should all be, hopefully it's all encouragement. Yeah. Right? Like that's what we need. Yeah. We need to be encouraged. And so, Jed, hey, it's always good chatting with you.
Agreed.
Gonna wrap it up, but listeners, be encouraged. Be encouraged and walk faithfully with our Lord. And we'll see you Sunday, see you on Good Friday, see you on Easter.
Here it comes.
We get to celebrate. He is risen. So.
Yeah. Amen. And
Amen.
He is
He's risen indeed.
Okay, thank you. I was like, hey,
hang on a second. Don't leave me hanging.
What are you going to say, Jed?
No, we're good. Perfect.
Right.
He is risen indeed. Let's go.
Amen. We'll see you guys. Bye.
Bye.